Thank you all for asking me to help. Remember, one of the people in this world who definitely, to know him, in my words, was to allow him to let him raise your blood pressure. But to know me is to also know that I trust people and love people deeply who I know I can disagree with and struggle, and to know that I'm greeted with the smile and the warmth, because that's what real, created family is. And so when I say he raised my blood pressure, it was a good thing. But he did. So now I'm going to read the introduction to his book, It Ain't Truth If It Doesn't Hurt, because I thought it was one of the most well-written introductions I had ever read. And I also like the profound way that these words, he speaks for himself. And so we begin. When I was in high school, poetry was a means of survival. Like many adolescents, I had a limited idea of what poetry was, but I used every poetic tool at my disposal to work through a complicated set of emotions. Almost all of my poetry was completely focused on a single situation, Nicole Harris. When I started high school, she was the girl I loved to hate. She was brilliant, she was popular, she was athletic, she was artistic. She was a talented speaker, and she wowed teachers and other students alike. The hate part quickly faded away, and it was replaced by love, a chaste love. I desired everything about her but physicality. For a teen in the grips of a raging hormone storm, my love for Nicole threatened to provide proof positive of other truths about myself that I was trying desperately to avoid. Enter poetry. Poetry was a convenient way, through juvenile metaphor and simile, to explore my feelings for Nicole, my growing understanding of myself, and conveniently, every single poem I wrote, I gave to her. I haven't seen any of them since I graduated from high school in 1994, but she tells me I was quite prolific. The period created my relationship to the art form. Poetry for me is a way to express work through dig, into, rip, apart, scream, shout, holler, eject, vomit, make love, hook up, tear down, look at, ignore, hide, explore, and finally release. Quite often, unless I am reading a piece in public, once I have written a piece, I go many months or years without looking at it again. So putting together a book of poetry was antithetical. Ooh, he used big words too. To how I relate to my work. I still haven't figured out if my distance from my poetry is my way of acknowledging that whatever I was dealing with at the time of writing was dealt with, or at least in part I was walking away from it, or if I am afraid to look back at it in case things aren't still as settled as I hoped they were. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but sometimes I avoid getting too close to the truth as well. Truth at arm's length is less threatening than truth in your face. I have always been an in-your-face kind of guy. So here I am with my first collection of poetry. Like all honest writers, I wonder if what I have written is meaningful beyond my head. It is only shameless self-indulgence. Is it only shameless self-indulgence? Or have I managed to capture something of creation that is seen in the new way it touches a life outside of my own? I believe that all poetry is self-indulgent. The crux is whether or not the indulgence reaches beyond itself. But I am no philosopher. There are entire bodies of work and plenty of PhDs who have thought great thoughts about the place that poetry occupies in our world. For me, poetry is not and should not be something that is inaccessible. It is my very personal attempt to make sense of things that I have seen, felt, experienced, and wondered at in the world. Sometimes it helps me understand, and most often it helps me see the questions I need to ask. And sometimes when I write, what I write has nothing or little to do with me at all. There are those times when I know that God, the universe, or a wandering spirit has sat with me, used me as a channel to bring a story to paper that needs to be told. Whether the words are my own or a gift from the spirit, they are what they are. Most of the pieces you will find in these pages are written in the last 2 years. Interestingly, the last 2 years, and Living Out Loud started in 2010. There are a few that are older. There are pieces that are here in spirit only. As a few years ago, I learned a bitter lesson about the foilabilities of technology and lost several poems forever. In the end, these poems explore sex, violence, love, loss, peace, addiction, disease, hurt, success, failure, struggle, sexuality, confusion, understanding, and joy. I hope you find something in these pages that makes you smile, laugh, cry, or think. And in the end, I write because it is what I believe I was meant to do. Like or dislike have been subsumed into a biological, spiritual, and manic imperative that gripped me some 20 years ago and shows no signs of letting go. Thank you for reading. With love, Brandon Lacey Campos.